Hello, my friends. I am back. Long time no see. I know. It has been a bit quieter on this channel, and especially with English. I'm just back from a big Vatsim event, the World Flight 2018. I have been a member of the German team in Hamburg, and we've been flying a lot in the last week. Going from Sydney to Sydney all around. If you want to know more, just go on the World Flight web pages, or you can also check here on the Vatsim page. Now, what's this video about? Or actually, it's not one video. It's going to be many parts, or several parts at least, because I don't want to create this humongous, big, long video. And it's introducing yourself to how I approached flying online in X-Plane. Okay. And the thing is, I'm not only flying one network. Vatsim just happened to be the first one I opened here, but I'm also flying on IVAO. I actually started flying on IVAO, and then I kind of switched to Vatsim due to these events, mainly the World Flight. Then I haven't really been flying a lot on IVAO over the years because, for one, they actually deactivate your account if you're not active for about 2 months or so, or 8 weeks. I'm not sure, but then they turn you off. It is actually no problem to turn yourself on again, but they just deactivate users, and because I didn't have much time, and I also don't fly much on Vatsim, I have to say, yeah, I kind of stuck with Vatsim for a long time. Now recently, doing kind of fly-togethers with Claudio on Claudio's Digitale Lichtspieltheater channel and things like that. I have reactivated my IVAO account, and I have also started to install everything I need for IVAO on X-Plane. And that's what this video, or the series of videos, is about. What did I do in order to get X-Plane 11 to actually fly online with both networks? Okay, it's working now for me on both networks. And what I'm going to do is I'm first introducing you quickly to the two networks. And what you should realize is they are not that different. I never really saw a big difference between IVAO and Vatsim. Actually, for me as a pilot, they appeared the same. You do have some client software. You're talking to some controllers. You have, well, none to very good coverage, depending on the time of day and the location and so on and so forth. Yeah, you have some software that you need to install. The only maybe minor difference is that IVAO has a different way of doing the voice communication, namely by using TeamSpeak, whereas Vatsim uses their own software, basically, which is a little bit inferior, I think, from a sound quality point of view, but they're working actually on a new solution which is supposed to be much better than what we have now, which is very encouraging. But apart from that, they are really the same. There are controllers, there are pilots, there are some rules, and that we are all coming from the same hobby. Maybe at times two different sides of the hobby, the controller and the pilot, but many controllers are also pilots, and vice versa. I'm not, I'm just pilot. And usually they do not eat you alive, okay? On the contrary, they're bound to help you if you kind of make sure that you've got yourself the basic rules and that you understand kind of the basic concepts and what you should or what you should not do. And that's the kind of expectation that both networks have. Don't just go there and mess around. Just read up a little bit and get sort of the basic knowledge of how to do air traffic control. If you're then doing mistakes, and mistakes are normal, I did a lot of them at the beginning, and I was also very nervous. Yeah, I couldn't understand everything. I had to ask for repetition, probably more than 100 times at the beginning. But usually those controllers are very patient, and they will help you. They will repeat and they will make sure that you're also following their instructions. Okay, no difference between the two, at least not that I could realize. Okay, so let's start with the Vatsim network. It's just by chance because it's the first window here. Okay, so there's no, I don't have an absolute preference which network I'm flying. So this is the Vatsim webpage. It's www.vatsim.net, and yeah, it's the new way of doing web pages. All right, so it's, I call them the scrolling web pages. So you scroll down here and you see more things, and they have this big introduction. But basically what you can do is about Vatsim, join Vatsim, Vatsim regions. I'm not going to go into this detail, okay? Suffice to say, you need to have a membership or a registration number or whatever that's called. Basically, you need credentials in order to log on to the network. And you get this by doing this here. Go to the About page, membership links, and what you do then is, first of all, they give you some code of conducts and stuff like that. And then they're telling you what to do in order to register. You must be at least 13 years of age. That is definitely the case with me. And there is actually inactivation in Vatsim accounts. It's just that I've never seen this because I haven't been flying for almost a year and I'm still active. So it can't be that bad. It's not as strict as it is on IVAO. Okay. There's a sign up page. You go there and then you go through this process here. I'm not going to do this. I'm just going to show you. If you haven't got yet an account with Vatsim, get yourself the member registration, go through here, answer all the questions, and you will receive a number and a password and some other stuff. Please just read this and do this, because you will need, in the end, you will need this Vatsim ID and a password. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to connect. All right. Now with IVAO, same thing but different. You have a web page, and here's your about. Okay, and as pilots, you can go to the first steps page. That's where you should start. And they basically maybe not that kind of first step. Oh yeah, up there is a register. Okay, here you have to register. So you click on the register, read this, go through this, provide all the information, and make sure that in the end you get, guess what, an ID and a password. Okay, very similar thing, very similar approach, but you need to have this in order to continue. All right. Now, both networks offer some form of, well, let's say training, especially for controllers, because you can't really start controlling without some training. So it is a bit more restrictive in both networks when you can actually go and do some controlling. Whereas being a pilot is actually relatively easy. You basically register, familiarize yourself with those steps, and then in theory you can start. And that's the way I have done it. I mean, I had a bit of pre-existing experience with communicating as a pilot, but yeah, I went basically and looked at the various resources that they offer you. Okay, so there's documentation, and I went through this. I am still a trainee, actually, I think, from because I never done any kind of examination. But being a trainee now for many years hasn't actually stopped IVAO allowing me to fly on the network. Okay, so they do not force you to do all this. But there is a lot of documentation around. So if you go, for example, here, then you get TeamSpeak configuration, basic IVAP functions for X-Plane, WebI presentation, and so on and so forth. Okay, so I would recommend that in IVAO you go here, you get yourself all the documentation, and just browse through them and read sort of the basic stuff. Now, if you're like me and you have a lot of experience with flying the simulator, radio navigation, and all that kind of stuff. You might not need every single page of all of these here, okay? But if you're pretty much a beginner, you should take your time and especially look at things like general rules and regulations, pilot rules and regulations, you know, that kind of stuff. It makes sense because you don't really want to be trolling the networks, okay? And very similar here, there is the let me see, where is that? Pilots getting started. So this is the getting started page actually. If you haven't done so yet, you have to join Vatsim here. Okay. You come to the membership links. There's a membership user agreement, code of conduct, private policy. Then there's the sign up page. You go there and you do your sign up. And yeah, basically in the end you have your ID, and then you should actually go to the resources page, and in the resources page you do get software, training, and online pilot. You see, for example, what you need to do kind of a rating. Again, on Vatsim, I'm not rated. I've never done any kind of examination or any kind of level. So I'm still flying for many years now. I have been flying online in Vatsim, and including doing a most complicated thing that you can do, and that is the likes of Cross the Pond and World Flight. So you're not forced to do this examination if you don't feel like it. You can, but you don't have to. Okay. And there's also this Pilot Resource Center. There's some Vatsim basics, expectations and requirements for pilots, Vatsim personnel, and so on and so on. So lots and lots of links. What I also like here is, and I'm pretty sure that something like that exists in IVAO probably as well, but they have a lot about VFR flying here, and that's actually one of the areas where I would like to go in the next couple of months. I would like to do a little bit more VFR flying with smaller aircraft, and also do this online at times. And yeah, Vatsim also has regions. I think possibly like IVAO 2, I'm not sure. But in Vatsim, you definitely have regions. And if you're like me and you're living in Germany, you would belong to the German Vatsim region. And you would also get an ID. The registration would filter through. And at Vatsim Germany, you would actually be able to get charts, for example, and so on. That's just basic introduction now here. One of the things is, if you want to know what's going on the networks, there are many tools for IVAO as well as Vatsim, okay, where you can get information. One that I discovered quite recently, namely last week, when we were on World Flight, it seems to be also new, is the vatsimradar.com. But there are more, okay? And you get information about the tools from the respective website. So that's Vatsim Radar, and it shows you we have actually Düsseldorf Tower online, and these are flights just currently going on in Germany on a Tuesday morning, because I'm doing this quickly before I start working. As usual, when I'm back from a week of vacation, I have very little time. Long working hours. So yeah, Sao Paulo, Rio de Janeiro. So actually quite nice, as you can see what's going on. Very similar, and basically the official tool is the WebEye, as it's called, of IVAO Aero, and there you get all the online airplanes and also the online controllers. And as you can see, it is so similar. But there are some small differences, and we're going to look at those when we're doing all the installation. Here you can see, for example, only pilots, ATC. There are actually observers. There's observer state. Here's one, for example. That is someone who is watching the Cologne, it seems. and there's an examination or something. So there are different types of people. There's also supervisor. They're the bosses. Don't mess with a supervisor on any of the networks. So you can see there's a lot of information that's given to you. By the way, here as well, if you click on any of these, you will see the route, how far they are, and some basic information about the contact that you have selected. And I'm not sure what happens if I select a tower. Nothing happens. Okay. So that's the live map. And you can say show ATC, or you can turn that off if you only want to see the aircraft, I think. But there are other tools like this. But the point is, I don't want to now show you all the stuff and everything there is. I just wanted to point you to where you need to start and get your ID. That is the first thing. The second thing that you need to get is software. Okay, and again, you go to the respective page on Vatsim or IVAO. And because we are in X-Plane, for example, if we take Vatsim, you cannot take vPilot. I think one of the greatest tools available at the moment. There's the good old Squawk Box. Whoever likes it, it's still in use. There's FSN. I never really was into FSN. So I don't know. I always found it a bit too messy. But it is another possibility. I'm not sure if these two here, Squawk Box and FSN, are still maintained. vPilot is definitely. They're updating it kind of regularly. And this is what we need as explainers. It's called the X Squawk Box. And for that, you go to the xsquawkbox.net download page. And they have actually done a release that isn't that long ago. It looked like there's not going to be any updates anymore, but no, on the contrary, they've done it. It's currently 1.3.3. It's for all operating systems in X-Plane, and this is what you need. And it's the main thing that you need. The other thing I try to remember is it could be that you have that you need to have XPU-IPC as well, but since this is one of my standard tools, it's always on. I'm trying to find if there is a need for that. Doesn't look like it. So it seems to be sufficient if you get yourself here from the download page the X Squawk Box version 1.3.3 and then install it in your resources plugins folder. Now that is not all you need to do. It just allows you to, in theory, get connected, but there are some other aspects that we need to look at. By the way, the original Squawk Box, the old one, was also able to connect to IVAO, but please do not use this. Okay, do not use this for IVAO. Use X Squawk Box for Vatsim, and then you go to the IVAO. If you really want to do IVAO, you need to go here. It's the basic, to pilots, pilots, resources. Where's the software? Software. So resources, software. Here we go. IVAO pilot clients. You click here. And then you scroll down and you can see that you have to watch for your operating system. Okay, so for Windows, for example, you would get yourself the current version of the XIVAP client. Yeah, you just click here and yeah, some pages are a little bit not so clear. Do you click here or what? No. I think you need to click here and current. So, okay. Why is V040 previous? This is probably a little bit of a bad naming. So here's your download now for the IVAO client. Yeah, some web pages are can be confusing. So it's V040 let's in macOS we have already V04. Okay. Well, anyway, take the top one, and then you should be okay. So again, this is a plugin. It goes into resources plugins. There are some instructions on how to install it, and that is here. So go and download yourself also the walkthrough and general information and so on, because that might give you some more insight. Now, that's about all I'm going to do in this part. I just wanted to point you to the relevant web pages and where you get your stuff. What we're going to do in the next part is I'm going to pick the first network. I'm going to start with IVAO, because that's what I installed first on my box. And I'm going to talk you through the kind of additional downloads that you need to do, or at least that you should do if you want to do it like me. And how to do the most complex thing of this installation. And the most complex thing of this installation is actually getting the so-called CSL or models, or whatever you want to call them. So basically, CSLs are fake aircraft, kind of AI aircraft object models and stuff like that, which will be displayed when you have contact with other aircraft in the network. And it can be quite confusing, and it can be the one part that might not go perfectly if you don't know what you're doing, or it looks really ugly if you use the default stuff. So there are the official ways of doing it, and there are other ways of doing it, and I'm going to show you the other way of doing it, because there is some freeware libraries out there with CSL models that are actually looking a bit better than the one that come by default. And I'm going to show you how to download, where to download them, how to download them, and how to set them up. And not only that, set them up and also use them for Vatsim. Because the almost exact same steps apply to Vatsim. And me having both, I have actually managed to get one installation of all those CSLs, and I use them for both plugins. And how to do that, I'm going to show you as well. So that's what's going to come. But for today, first part, I just wanted to point you to the various resources and pages that are available. And you can already start maybe snooping around and looking. Next part, we are going to set up IVAO, and after that we're going to set up Vatsim. And yeah, see you then in the next part.